the cloud. Okay, so I'm really thrilled that Kayla made this connection between us and ADL and us and Darren in particular. And Darren, as you know, I think this group is a group of the education directors and other senior education professionals at congregational schools in the greater Boston area. We have a smallish attendance today. I think a lot of people are on vacation already, but I am recording for everybody else. And I think I frame this as, obviously with your permission, as Darren will be, for Darren to share some of the resources of ADL, but also sort of to highlight that for so many of our schools, especially the lay people, are very, very concerned, of course, about our teens as they leave our environments and go to the big wide world, and particularly college campuses, and what can we do, should we be doing to help them be prepared for the world they will encounter. And I'm framing that as what our lay people say. I will encase that in, we all know it's not a one-off, get them ready in June of their 12th grade year. So I'm just putting that out there. So I'm really going to turn it over to you, Darren, and let you have the floor.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to having this conversation because I know it's quite timely too. I will just get started by telling you I'm Darren Pressman-Mashin. I'm the Associate Regional Director at ADL in New England, and I'm joined with my colleague, Jay Greenwald, and he is a student at Tufts, and he's interning with ADL this summer, and he's going to be helping me with just a couple technology pieces here. So I'll go ahead and get started. Let's see. Here we go. And okay. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Good. Okay, great.
Sorry to interrupt. Will you share this PowerPoint with us afterwards?
Yes, I think I can. I just have to clean it up a little bit. I have some like hidden slides and things, but
okay.
All right. So just as a really quick brief overview, ADL was founded in 1913 to stop the defamation of the Jewish people, to secure justice for fair treatment to all. I'm assuming in your roles, you're pretty familiar with what we do. So if you wouldn't mind pulling out a phone, you can grab the QR code, or if not, I think, yep, Jay's just dropped the link in there into the chat box, and you can go there, and this will be a way to kind of get to know the audience here, how well you know the ADL, and that will just help me frame what I talk about today. So Jay, you can go ahead and share.
I need you to stop sharing before I can share.
All right, here we go. Okay, just give everyone a minute longer. All right. Is everyone in there?
Nomi, are you up to speed with where we are?
More or less, thanks.
Okay. All right. So we will continue on then. So go back to my presentation. So it looks like majority of you are somewhat familiar with the ADL. So I'll go through some aspects of it, but at the end we'll have time for questions. You can certainly ask me about anything in particular. Here we go. Okay, so the ADL is kind of working on three different pillars. The first is that we investigate. So you might have heard there was an incident recently in Peabody in which two synagogues there's an organization called the Goyim Defense League, and they left some pamphlets and literature at two synagogues in Peabody, basically connecting COVID, with the Jews being at fault for COVID. It was kind of some bizarre literature that they put out, but the synagogues knew what to do. They got in touch with us, and as did the police in that area, who we have a good connection with, and we were able to investigate that incident. It was the first incident that organization has done in Massachusetts, interestingly, so now we're starting to track them in the state. The second is that we advocate. So right now, our legal team is currently in a suit against the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers for their role in the January 6th attacks. And so we have a really robust legal team, as well as an entire team working on lobbying for different causes that we support, such as the nonprofit security grant, which you might have heard was recently increased to, I think, $50 million. And our lobbying team is a part of making sure that happened. And last, we educate. We have a whole educational department with lots of different educational programs designed for synagogues, for students. And there's programs like No Place for Hate and A World of Difference. You may have heard of some of these. I'll talk about a little bit of them at the end. So anti-Semitism is poorly understood. I think probably you all have been in a situation where you might have been in a space where somebody didn't quite understand what anti-Semitism really even means. Maybe that was outside of a Jewish space, maybe it was inside of a Jewish space. I think we all have a lot to learn. Even I'm learning new things every day about it. And also what makes anti-Semitism distinct is that it alleges to punch up, versus other forms of discrimination, which really pull down people. They want to keep them down. Anti-Semitism is different in that, it alleges that Jews are, wealthy, powerful, trying to pull them down from their positions of power. So I'll just go through some of our numbers. You may be aware that we put out an audit of anti-Semitic incidents every year. The last one came out in April. So these are the most updated numbers here. You can see there is some sense of urgency. So from 2016 to 2017, there was a pretty big jump. It had a lot, I think, to do with the political atmosphere at the time, but there were a lot of different factors that went into it. But you can also see that there was a pretty big jump from 2020 to 2021 as well. Also, if you look over here on the map on the right-hand side, you can see that Massachusetts is one of the states in the higher categories of anti-Semitic incidents. It sort of follows the coastline. It also follows where, Jewish communities reside. I pulled out some statistics from the audit that you may be interested to know about. So over here on the left side, we have incidents from non-Jewish K-12 schools. This can be anything like finding a swastika in a bathroom. So you can see incidents of harassment, vandalism, and one case of assault in 2021. And over on the right-hand side, you can see that the numbers actually have been steadily increasing at Jewish institutions. So you see here, 2021, the cases of harassment have risen, as have vandalism, and 11 cases of assault nationally, which is pretty troubling. Additionally, in 2021, over here on the left-hand side, you can see the incidents by location. Most of these incidents happen in public areas. Again, this is like a swastika found on a public playground, something like that. But you can see the next highest number here is the Jewish institutions or schools. Synagogues fall into that category. And 63% of Americans feel less safe in their community, they're less safe in their communities than they were a decade ago. There was a survey on Jewish Americans' experiences with anti-Semitism, and I'll just point out here that 63% of the people experienced some form of anti-Semitic incident in the last 5 years. So we will just go back to our Menti here. So if you still have it up, pull that up, or you can go back to the link. Leave that up there for a second. And I'll let Jay pull that up. All right, yeah, so my question to you is, by what percentage do you think anti-Semitic incidents increase in? So I'll give everyone a minute to answer. 15 more seconds here. All right, so it looks like everyone's in there. The percentage was 42%. So should be able to pop there. Yeah, there we go. 42%, which is kind of a very disturbing, scary increase, especially Kayla gets 41%. That's as close as we could get there. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next question, which is really just my chance to get to know you a little bit more. And I'm just curious to know if you've experienced anti-Semitism. Could be, recently, could have been, earlier in your life. And just to give me a brief description that we can just talk about. So we'll leave this up here for a minute, take your time.
Is this ever or at some point? Or recently, rather?
It's up to you. I intentionally left it open-ended because, it could have been recent, but it could have been something that happened in your childhood that is, specific that you want to bring up. One person said they had kerosene squirted on them and told the Jews should burn at the age of 13. That's horrible. Microaggressions. Yep. We talk about microaggressions a lot, and those can happen in the Jewish community or towards Jews all the time. Walking past the Catholic Church and being harassed. Comment from a classmate that was innocently parroting a Christian supersessionist idea. Yeah, I recently had someone reach out to me because at the school where they attended, one student told another student who had like dirt on their hands that their hands were dirty because they were Jew and they had the blood of Christ on their hands. And these are like little kids and they don't really know what they're saying, but someone taught them to say that. I'll just give another minute or so if anyone else wants to. Yep, being told that Jews had killed Jesus, being called a disgusting name on the bus. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anti-Semitism can manifest in many different ways. I think it's sometimes harder to process in some ways as a child, as a student, as I'm sure in your role as education directors, you may be in a situation where someone comes to tell you something that happened and it can be hard to work through. Okay, all right, so I think we'll, move on. Oh, here we go. Mother-in-law used the phrase, Jewed someone down. Yeah. Someone else mentioned that too, hearing the phrase Jew you down. Yeah, for sure. That's a comment that's heard, I think, kind of often. Okay. All right, Jay, I'll have you stop sharing and I'll go back to here. So thank you so much for sharing those experiences with me. I mean, clearly the reason why ADL exists is to try and help in all those different kinds of situations. So I'll just let you know a couple of the resources that we have. We have something called an Adl Tracker of anti-Semitic incidents. You can search incidents by state, by town, and you can kind of find out what's happening in your area if that's a rabbit hole you want to go down. But as things are being reported to us, they get put into this tracker. And that also helps us to understand when incidents are connected or white supremacist groups are connected and so forth. We also have this heat map here. And as you can see, this is tracking where all the incidents are happening throughout the country. Again, there's quite a lot happening in the Northeast. A lot of those incidents are coming actually from New York and New Jersey, and specific like Hasidic areas in New York and New Jersey, but Massachusetts still has quite a few of them. Again, these are sort of populating where Jewish populations exist. It's harder to commit an anti-Semitic act against a Jew when, there's not so many Jews living in your area. It also has to do with reporting, right? So this is just what's reported to us. We don't necessarily know if something's not reported, hard to track. So I'll just end by talking about your role in the good fight and what you can do to be helpful to us, and again, how we can be helpful to you. So oh, sorry, Robin, yes, I see you have a question.
Yeah, well, it's just a curious question. I'm not even sure that it matters, but the anti-Semitic incidents that are happening on the East Coast, are they caused by, is the anti-Semite living on the East Coast also, or are they they're in the middle of the country and going after the Jewish communities on the coast?
Yeah, that's a good question. Our incidents are tracked by the zip code of the person who reports it to us. So that's how it gets assigned to the particular area. So if you traveled to Arizona and something happened to you, but you live in Boston, it'll get tracked as a Boston incident because you're a resident of Boston. But we will coordinate with the Arizona office to get to the bottom of what happened. But in terms of how it's reported, it's going to be counted as a Boston incident. It's just the way that it ends up being done.
I think I was asking something slightly different, and that is the perpetrator. Are the perpetrators living in the same places? Like, are they living on the East Coast, or are they living in the middle of the country and attacking or causing incidents on the coasts?
Well, I mean, I think that's a complicated question. There are white supremacist groups that are active in particular areas. For example, I was mentioning the incident at the Peabody. They are more active in, I think, like Texas and California, and this was the first incident in Massachusetts. Do I think that they flew all the way to Massachusetts just to leave these pamphlets in Peabody specifically? No, but I mean, I think there are people living there, but they're just getting involved in these organizations that have bigger footprints in these other communities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so as educational directors, I'm sure you're mandatory reporters, for sexual harassment and other things like that. In terms of reporting anti-Semitic incidents, there are some actions that you can take if someone comes to you with something. So the first thing I'll tell you to do is take down as many details as possible. Take photos, scan documents, anything that you can do to document as much as that, that will be helpful to us, because we can start to, our Center on Extremism tracks all of this, and we can start to piece it together to see if, it came from a particular group that has the same markings and so forth. To report the incident online, I have the incident report. No, I don't. I'll make sure I send that to you, but there is an online reporting tool. So you'll go, if you just Google ADL Incident Report, it'll bring you right there, and you can submit your incident. That's the best way to do it. Even if you email me directly with an incident, I will just tell you to put it right in there, because that's our tracking tool. And it will ask you lots of different questions about what happened, where it happened. You can upload photos. You can give as much detail as you need to, whether or not you contact police and so forth. And then I'll ask you to use ADL resources to respond to an incident. I mean, this is totally up to you, but we have some resources to be able to put together. If you want to send an email to your community, if you want to post something on Facebook, we have resources to help you craft that response. And additionally, we may have some additional feedback for you about, again, if we are able to find out that, you got something very strange in the mail and a synagogue across the country got the same thing, then, we might call and ask for some additional questions and see if we can start to piece together that a little bit more. And then we have educational resources. As I mentioned, we have an entire education department dedicated to this. I pulled out three programs that I thought might be of interest to you. These are mostly for middle school and high schoolers. We don't have as much for the littler ones, unfortunately. It's a hard topic to talk about, but Echoes and Reflections is the Holocaust educational program. Words to Action is specifically for a Jewish audience. So that's going to be, synagogues, Jewish day schools, things like that. And then Vina is the digital interactive course. So here we have the link, the adl.org/education. Looks like Jay just put that into the chat for you. And that's where you could go to sign up for any of these programs. That'll go directly to the National Education Department, and they'll link you up with a facilitator for one of those things. And lastly, I just want to do a little plug for some of our upcoming events. On the left, it's ADL's Never Is Now. That's the Global Summit on Anti-Semitism that's happening November 10th in New York City, if you're interested in the trip. And the local Boston one is called The Good Fight. That's going to be on October 30th at the Boston Renaissance Hotel in the Seaport area. And there's more information coming out about both of those. The best way to get all of the up-to-date information is to sign up for the ADL newsletter, but we'll also have it on our social media too. You can check it out there. All right, so that's it. Thank you, everyone. I hope that was informative. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, thank you so much, Darren. Very informative and definitely broadened my understanding of where things are right now, not just about anti-Semitism, but what ADL is able to help us with. Thank you. So I'll open it to the group for any questions, observations, thoughts.
Are you guys doing any trainings in the fall?
What kind of trainings?
Oh, sorry. Like for teenagers or preteens about like, what is anti-Semitism? What do you do when you see it? How do you respond to it if it happens in your public school? That type of thing.
Yeah, so that's the Words to Action course that I mentioned. So that would be one of our facilitators coming into your synagogue, and it's exactly that. It's kind of talking about what anti-Semitism is, and then it sort of guides the participants through understanding how they've been impacted by that in their own lives, and then it ends with what can you do about it. So that's what that is designed for.
And how do we, who do we get in touch with to set something like that up?
So if you go to that adl.org/education, you can fill out the detail. There's like a form you fill out with your synagogue information, and then it will connect you, since you're local to New England's office. We'll get notified that you have interest in that, and then we'll try and find a facilitator to set something up. I will tell you that it probably it won't be until the fall because we're like on a little bit of a summer hiatus, but yeah.
If I understood correctly, the Bina thing is an online program for teens. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And is that something, is it asynchronous or is it synchronous?
I think that's self-guided. So I think you could do it at any time. I can double check on that to be certain, but I'll let me make a note and find out. But I'm pretty sure you can do it at.
And is there a fee for that?
Some of them have fees and some of them don't. Let's see, go on this website here. Sorry, I'm not in the education department, so I don't know quite all the details of all of their different programs, but let me see if I can pull this up quickly.
Because just for, I'm thinking for our group, I imagine being able to provide some sort of asynchronous resource to our teens might be very useful.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
looking on it now. It looks like it says free, and then it says it's like 15 to 60 minute like timed programs. So yeah. There's a couple different ones that you can access for free on the website.
Right. Kayla's exactly right. There's a couple of different programs that are free to use. The ones that need a facilitator to come in, obviously, have a fee because we have to pay the facilitators to do that.
Mhm. And I guess I'm also wondering, Janice, with that incident that was in Peabody that Darren shared, was that something that your congregation was aware of and alert to?
Not specifically.
Uh-huh.
Individuals, yes.
Okay.
But it hasn't really filtered through anything.
Yeah. So friends, any other thoughts, questions, conversation about this?
Can you speak at all about the BDS letter that we all received, or I assume most of us received the other day, and how that may be potentially impacting us?
Yeah. So obviously, since that came out, that's been the topic of conversation pretty much all day, every day. I do know that ADL is working on a group response with some of the other major organizations in Boston, like CJP, about kind of like what resources we have and what we're going to try and do moving forward. I'm intentionally being a little vague because I'm not even sure yet what's going to come out of those conversations. They're happening at a very high level, a little higher than I am. With the national office. It's obviously very scary, right? The map of all the Jewish organizations and how they're all interconnected. It's scary indeed. And we recognize that ADL seems to be at the center of that, interestingly. And we're working on a way to address it without giving them more attention than they deserve, basically. So more to come. I'm sure you'll get some more information about that soon.
Thanks, Jerry, for asking, because I actually just read that earlier this morning and was a little freaked out by that.
I hadn't even seen it, so I'm not sure
Yeah.
to what you're referring.
Did it come from CJP, Jerry? How did we get it? Yeah.
Came from CJP GEMS,
Okay.
the Jewish Emergency Management System, I think is what GEM stands for.
Oh, yes. Okay, that one. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I'm not even going to give you the link because I don't even want to promote it, but it's basically a group that put together they mapped out all the Jewish organizations and how they're all interconnected and what are all of our violations against land grabbing, Palestinian rights, and so forth. So it's a little bit scary because it lists addresses and names, and it's definitely it's caught national attention, let's just say, of ADL. So we're working on it.
Okay, any last questions? I promised Darren it would be a half hour. So any last comments, concerns? And obviously we can talk amongst ourselves and we know how to reach Darren and the ADL. But
yeah, I'll just put my email. Here's my email. You can feel free to reach out to me. Obviously, if you have an incident, you can reach me. That's me directly. But again, you should also put it in the incident tracker tool. And I will put together some resources to email. I'll email to Marion, and then you can send out to the group.
fantastic. So thank you, Darren, and thank you obviously for all the work that you and the organization does. And let's hope that none of us will need those services of the tracking. But we certainly look forward to the education pieces. So thank you so much. And thank you, Kayla, for helping make the connection.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, bye everyone.
Bye. All right, I certainly didn't want to end on the depressing. So just, I'm curious though, like, what are your thoughts about how and what and if we bring these things to our students? And I'm sure many of you maybe have used, the World of Difference or the No Place for Hate. Those are the two I'm most familiar with. I don't know
about everybody else. So just curious what's on your mind about that and where things stand for you on this topic. Did everybody freeze, or is no one has anything to say?
Well, I'm sure like you, there were there were several, I don't know, incidents in Framingham and Natick where most of our students come from. And I just felt at a loss in terms of like speaking with parents, speaking with kids, addressing it. Like I used the ADL website, but I think I mentioned a couple months ago, I had a really hard time getting in touch with the ADL. So Kayla, thank you for this. And you probably should have been the one that I, reached out to initially. And I think also, I guess I'm just looking forward to our new clergy. I think that our interim rabbi wasn't out there in the way that I think our new rabbi will be. And I think she has a mindset that's a little more youthful.
There were several instances in Newton this year in the middle school. And to be honest, it was really hard to know exactly how to talk about it with our kids and giving them the space to talk about their feelings. In theory, the schools were doing all sorts of things. It certainly wasn't the first time that things had happened. And the clergy who are very responsive in a lot of ways. I think we were all kind of uncertain about what our role should be. With parents who were asking for a place for their kids to talk about these things, and then the kids didn't want to talk about them. And so I think that is just super hard because given, when you talk to kids, they all know the answers they're supposed to give, whether they're Jewish kids or not Jewish kids, and yet these instances are still going on. I'm really glad you recorded it because I was in another meeting that ran long, but I don't know. I feel like we didn't do enough, but I don't actually know what else we could do.
Yep. Jerry?
I think that there's a couple of challenges and opportunities here. One is, I think, at least for those of us, maybe more so, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to the people who are younger, but I have a really strong negative reaction to a swastika. And I wonder if generationally, as we get further away from the Nazis and the white supremacists glorify it, if it doesn't carry some of the same significance as a really hateful, despicable, scary symbol for our kids in the same way that it does for some of us. So they may, and especially in middle school, we want so badly to fit in that I think kids overlook some of these things because they have bigger social issues that they're trying to address and solve and survive. So I think that's one piece of it. And I wonder if it's an opportunity for us in our 6th and 7th grade programs, whether it's in places where we're talking about the Holocaust in particular, or to talk about being Jewish in a more general way, to help them understand the power of symbols. And that maybe that's something that we could do educationally. And the other thing that I think about, or I'm struck by with this conversation, is the balance between what I'm going to call tokenism, which is in some of our communities when kids are the only Jewish kids in the class, and a teacher will say, "Oh, can you tell me more about fill in the blank Jewish question or Jewish holiday or Jewish tradition or observance or ritual?" Because the teacher doesn't know and feels like maybe the kid is able to better answer than to give a wrong answer. And juxtapose that kind of, again, tokenism is the word that comes to mind, against anti-Semitism, which is not coming from a place of, I'm interested and want to learn more, but is coming from a place of, I'm shut down, I know what I think I believe, and Jews are bad, or Jews are wrong, or Jews are, again, fill in the blank with something negative.
Jerry, have you had that experience out in Easton, like where it is, obviously less dense Jewish community?
I haven't had it so much in Easton. The year that I was in Wayland, I remember that in Sudbury, I think there was a swastika found in a middle school. And when I talked about it, I was teaching some 8th grade boys, which was probably among the worst educational experiences I've ever had in my life. And not only did they not want to discuss it or understand the depth of why it was problematic, but they wanted to protect the kid who had done it potentially, even though they felt like they knew who he was, because they didn't want to get someone in trouble and have that potentially accrue in a negative way to them.
Yep. Got it. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is there is this sense of us not 100% knowing what to do when these incidences occur, whether with the students and or with the parents. And also, I guess I'd ask everybody in the room right now, like, do you feel that you have, clergy partners, or, in Robin's case, potential clergy partners, and other, professional and lay partners who could address this in a productive way, help you address in a productive way and problem solve the response together? Or, I guess, I just want to open that up.
I feel like we do. We had that same sort of incident, swastika found both at the middle school and then at one of the grade schools, which was bewildering to me. But the rabbi and I sat and we chose a mifgash kind of approach to it. And he took older kids, I took younger kids. We had really deep, good conversations with them. So as a model, that seemed to work for us for that opportunity. But every time something happens, I feel like we're back to, to square one. What should our response be? What's the best response?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you to Kayla for making the connection. Anyone have a pleasant, positive, something we can end on to not be thinking about the horrors of anti-Semitism?
There was an article in the New York Times, I can put it in the chat, at least the PDF of it, David Brooks, and it was greatest life hack. So it's not going in the chat. I want that.
I actually saw that headline and I didn't have a chance to read it. So
it was a really neat list. Oh, there it went. It just went into the chat with a lovely list of life hacks. So
that's a great thing to be thinking about over the summer.
Never pass up an opportunity to hang out with musicians. Don't ever look up a recent photo of your first great love.
Ooh, yeah.
If you're cutting a birthday cake with a bunch of kids howling around you, it's quicker and easier to cut the cake with dental floss, not a knife.
Cool. Right, so maybe I'll bring dental floss to the lunch next week. Awesome. All right. So actually, Kim, you RSVP'd for the lunch next week, right? Yeah. All right. So really looking forward to seeing many of you in person. And actually, Nomi, I don't know if you can hear me, but I don't know if you and Alana RSVP'd for lunch, but hopefully you'll be in the building and join us.
Marian, are we meeting over the summer? Is this group meeting over the summer? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I broached it in the beginning. I think I'll open it up to the whole group, online. And there's a big, Kim, I just was curious with the small group this morning, if people, even since we're meeting on Wednesday in person, are people interested in meeting online on Thursday? So I'll put both this coming Thursday and the whole summer to the group, and we'll have a conversation about it. Okay. And my recollection was, and others remembered differently, I thought we didn't like officially meet through the summer, but some people did meet together on Thursdays, just sort of, opening a link and being there. But I don't remember. So. All right, actually what I do remember, maybe all of you remember this, the first summer of 2020, and I think Elise was still officially at CJP. We met straight through the whole summer, and that was, people really felt the need for that, but I don't really remember last summer as well.
I think the first summer we were all trying to figure out how we really were going to pivot. And it was tremendously helpful to hear what other people were thinking about in terms of this isn't just a by the seat of your pants response anymore, but a really deliberate one for how are we going to do this.
Correct. All right. Well, I'm watching the time, so I will see everybody, those of you that will be there in person, looking forward to that. And like Kayla, I don't think we've ever met in person. Sam, we haven't met in person. One of my husband was working with a group that they hadn't met in person. When they did, he said the first thing they said to him was, "Rob, you have legs." So I'm looking forward to seeing Sam and Kayla's legs. The rest of you, I know you have legs. So see you next week, and have a good week, everybody.
He
Bye.